Ever been told that anger is destructive, that you need to calm down, that losing your temper makes you weak? What if everything you've been taught about anger is not just wrong but deliberately designed to keep you powerless? What if your anger, properly channeled, is the most powerful weapon you've never been taught to use? I am about to reveal why your anger isn't a weakness to suppress, but a weapon to master. Why the people who told you to calm down benefit from your compliance, and why learning to weaponize your anger will change everything about how the world treats you. You get angry when you are disrespected and you push it down. You get angry when you are exploited and you swallow it. You get angry when you are overlooked and you tell yourself to be reasonable. You get angry when you are betrayed and you rationalize it away. You know what happens to all that suppressed anger? It either destroys you from inside or leaks out in ways that hurt you. But here is what is going to change everything. Machiavelli understood that anger, properly deployed, is one of the most effective tools for commanding respect and achieving goals. He didn't teach suppression. He taught strategic expression. The difference between those who wield anger and those destroyed by it is simply knowledge and discipline. What if I told you that your anger is information about violations that need addressing? That it is energy that can fuel massive change? That it is a signal that tells others you have limits they must respect? That the people who master anger become far more powerful than those who suppress or explode with it? By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why anger is valuable, when most people think it is destructive, how to transform raw anger into strategic power, and how to use your anger as a weapon that gets you what you want while earning you respect. Are you ready to stop suppressing and start weaponizing? Drop this affirmation in the comments: my anger is my weapon. Principle 1. Anger is information you've been ignoring. Let's start by understanding what anger actually is. Anger is your system's response to a perceived violation. Something crossed a line. Someone threatened something you value. A boundary was breached. Your anger is telling you that something is wrong and needs to be addressed. When you suppress anger without examining it, you are ignoring valuable intelligence. You are dismissing your own boundary alarm. You are telling yourself that the violation doesn't matter when clearly it does. Otherwise, you wouldn't be angry. Suppression isn't wisdom. It is willful blindness to important information. Here is what your anger is trying to tell you. I am being disrespected means your dignity needs defending. I am being exploited means your value isn't being recognized. I am being overlooked means your visibility is insufficient. I am being betrayed means your trust was misplaced. Each anger has a message. Learn to read it. Machiavelli wrote, "He who neglects what is done for what ought to be done sooner affects his ruin than his preservation." Suppressing anger is focusing on what ought to be, a state of calm, rather than what is, a violation that needs addressing. This neglect affects your ruin. The strategically intelligent person processes anger differently. They feel the anger, then ask, what is this telling me? What boundary was crossed? What violation occurred? What needs to change? The anger becomes a starting point for analysis rather than something to be crushed. Here is a practice. Next time you feel anger, don't immediately try to calm down. Instead, ask yourself 3 questions. What just happened that triggered this? What boundary or value of mine was violated? What would need to change for this violation to not recur? Your anger has answers if you ask the right questions. The person who listens to their anger learns what matters to them. They learn where their boundaries are. They learn what they won't tolerate. They learn what needs to change in their life. Suppressing anger means suppressing all this valuable self-knowledge. There is another dimension to anger as information. Your anger often reveals not just what happened, but what matters to you more than you consciously realized. Sometimes you get angry and surprise yourself because you didn't know that thing was so important to you. This is your subconscious revealing values your conscious mind hadn't fully acknowledged. Pay attention to what makes you disproportionately angry. If someone's minor action triggers major anger, There is something deeper there. Maybe it connects to an old wound. Maybe it threatens something you value more than you knew. The disproportionate anger is a signpost pointing to something worth understanding. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I listen to my anger's message. Principle 2. Suppressed anger destroys you while expressed anger protects you. Here is what happens when you chronically suppress anger. It doesn't disappear, it goes underground. It becomes resentment, bitterness, depression, anxiety, or physical illness. The energy of anger has to go somewhere. If it doesn't go outward strategically, it goes inward destructively. Studies show that chronic anger suppression is linked to higher rates of heart disease, weakened immune function, and mental health disorders. The calm facade comes at a cost. Your body keeps score of every swallowed rage, every unexpressed boundary violation, every dignity insult you pretended didn't matter. Meanwhile, appropriate expression of anger protects you. When you express anger strategically, you release the energy outward rather than storing it inward. You communicate boundaries that prevent future violations. You signal to others that disrespecting you has costs. The expressed anger protects your future while the suppressed anger destroys your present. Machiavelli wrote, "Men must either be caressed or annihilated. They will revenge themselves for small injuries but cannot do so for great ones." The relevance here is that small expressions of anger for small violations prevent the accumulation that leads to either your destruction or explosive great response. Think about pressure systems. A pressure cooker with regular release valves functions safely. A sealed system with no release eventually explodes. Your anger works the same way. Strategic expression is the release valve. Chronic suppression is the sealed system. One is sustainable. The other guarantees eventual catastrophe. The people who teach you to suppress all anger aren't protecting you. They're setting you up for either slow internal destruction or eventual explosive release that damages your reputation. Strategic expression is the third path they don't want you to know about because it makes you powerful. Here is a test for whether you are over-suppressing. Think about the last time you were genuinely angry. Did you express it at all to the person who caused it? If the answer is no, and if this is your pattern, you are storing toxicity. The question isn't whether it'll hurt you, but when and how. The key word is strategic. Not all expression is good. Explosive expression damages relationships and reputation. Strategic expression protects your health while communicating boundaries effectively. Learning the difference is the skill that transforms anger from liability to asset. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I express anger strategically. Principle 3. Controlled anger commands respect automatically. Here is something most people don't understand. Controlled anger is one of the fastest ways to command respect. Not rage, not explosion, controlled anger. The calm but unmistakably intense energy that says you have crossed a line and there will be consequences. Watch how people respond to controlled anger. They pay attention. They stop dismissing. They recalculate whether the benefit of their behavior is worth the cost you are signaling. In seconds, the entire dynamic shifts because you've demonstrated that you have limits and will enforce them. This is completely different from losing your temper. Losing your temper makes you look weak, out of control, emotional, controlled. Anger makes you look strong. In command, serious. The content might be similar, but the delivery determines whether you gain or lose respect. Machiavelli wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both." Controlled anger creates appropriate fear, not terror, but the recognition that you are not someone to be crossed lightly. This fear, respect is often more reliable than affection. Respect because it is based on demonstrated consequences rather than hopeful connection. Here is how controlled anger looks in practice. Lower your voice instead of raising it. Slow your speech instead of speeding it up. Maintain eye contact without blinking frequently. Use fewer words, not more. State the violation and the consequence clearly and calmly. Then stop talking. The silence after your controlled, angry statement is powerful. Let it hang. Let them sit in the discomfort of having crossed you. Don't fill the silence with justification or softening. The silence says, "I mean this." The silence says the conversation is over unless they choose to address it. People who never show controlled anger train others that they have no lines. They become safe to disrespect. But people who can summon controlled anger when needed train others that lines exist and will be enforced. Which do you want to be? There is an important distinction between anger that communicates "I am hurt" and anger that communicates you've crossed a line. Hurt communication invites sympathy, but not necessarily respect. Line communication establishes boundaries that must be respected. The controlled anger we're discussing is line communication. Here is a script for controlled anger in professional settings. I need to address something directly. What happened was not acceptable. Here is what I expect going forward. Then state the expectation and stop. No elaboration. No softening. No, I hope you understand. Just the statement and then silence. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My controlled anger commands respect. Principle 4. Anger as fuel for massive change. Beyond communication and boundaries, anger is one of the most powerful fuels for transformation. The energy of anger, properly channeled, can drive you through obstacles that would stop people running on calmer emotions. Think about what anger provides. Energy that won't quit when you are tired. Focus that won't scatter when you are distracted. Determination that won't waver when you are discouraged. The raw power of anger channeled into productive action is almost unstoppable. Every great achievement has anger somewhere in its origin. Anger at injustice fueled social movements. Anger at being dismissed fueled entrepreneurial empires. Anger at limitations fueled athletic championships. Anger at the status quo fueled artistic revolutions. The anger wasn't suppressed. It was transformed. Machiavelli wrote, "Never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception." But sometimes, the force of anger channeled into persistent action is exactly what is needed. Not explosive force, sustained force. The relentless pressure that transforms situations over time. Here is how to channel anger into fuel. When you feel angry, instead of suppressing or exploding, ask, how can I use this energy productively? Then direct it into the workout, into the project, into the difficult conversation, into the goal. The anger becomes propellant rather than poison. Keep a list of injustices, dismissals, and violations that make you angry. When you need fuel, when motivation is low, review the list. Let the anger rise. Then point it at your current challenge. The same energy that could destroy you from inside can propel you forward. The most successful people aren't those without anger. They're those who've learned to transform anger into action, who use their rage as rocket fuel, who let their fury drive their focus. Your anger wants to be used. Stop wasting it on suppression or explosion. Start channeling it into construction. Here is a specific channeling technique. When you feel anger rising, immediately do something physical. Push-ups, a walk, lifting something heavy. Move the energy into your body first. This prevents both suppression and explosion by giving the energy somewhere to go. Then, with the initial intensity reduced, you can think clearly about productive direction. There is also creative channeling. Some of the greatest art, writing, and innovation has emerged from channeled anger. The energy that wants to destroy can be redirected into creation. Write the furious essay even if you don't publish it. Create the angry art even if you don't show it. The act of creation transforms the energy. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I channel my anger into action. Principle 5. When and how to strategically reveal anger. Now let's get tactical. When should you show anger and when should you conceal it? The answer depends on several factors, and getting it right is the difference between anger as weapon and anger as liability. Show anger when the violation is clear and inarguable. If there is ambiguity about whether you were wronged, showing anger looks like overreaction. If the violation is obvious, showing anger looks like appropriate response. Choose your battles where righteousness is clearly on your side. Show anger when you have power to back it up. Anger from a position of weakness looks like desperation. Anger from a position of strength looks like enforcement. Assess your position before deciding whether to express anger. Sometimes strategic calm from weakness is wiser than strategic anger that can't be enforced. Conceal anger when you need time to plan. Sometimes the violation requires a response that can't be immediate. Showing anger tips your hand. Concealing anger while planning lets you respond at the time and in the way that serves you best. Strategic delay is sometimes wiser than immediate expression. Machiavelli advised, "Never do an enemy a small injury." The corollary for anger is that if you are going to show it, make sure it has the intended effect. A weak display of anger is worse than none at all. It reveals your limit while demonstrating your inability to enforce it. Here is the tactical framework. Ask yourself 4 questions. First, is the violation clear enough to justify visible anger? Second, do I have enough power to enforce whatever I am signaling? Third, would immediate expression serve me or would delay serve me better? Fourth, what outcome do I want and will this anger display achieve it? The master of anger chooses when to reveal it, how much to reveal, and what form the revelation takes. They don't default to suppression. They don't default to expression. They choose strategically based on circumstances. This choice itself is power. Consider the strategic timing of anger. Immediate expression has impact through intensity. Delayed expression has impact through calculation. Sometimes the most powerful move is to express anger hours or days after the violation, when you've had time to craft the perfect response. The delayed, calculated expression is often more devastating than the immediate reaction. Also consider the audience. Private anger protects relationship while communicating boundary. Public anger escalates and makes backing down difficult. Sometimes private is better because it gives the other person opportunity to correct without losing face. Sometimes public is necessary because the violation was public. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I choose when to reveal my anger. Principle 6. The discipline of the controlled burn. The final principle is developing the discipline to maintain controlled anger, rather than letting it escalate into explosive rage. This discipline is what separates those who wield anger from those destroyed by it. The controlled burn requires physical management. When anger rises, your body prepares for conflict. Adrenaline flows, heart rate increases, muscles tense. You must override these escalation signals with conscious relaxation. Breathe slowly. Relax your hands, lower your shoulders, slow your movements. The controlled burn requires verbal management. Angry escalation involves louder, faster, more words. Controlled anger involves quieter, slower, fewer words. Script your response if you can. Know exactly what you'll say, then say only that. The discipline of few words prevents escalation better than any calming technique. Controlled burn requires knowing your exit. Before expressing controlled anger, know how you'll leave the conversation. Have an exit line ready? Have a physical exit available. The ability to walk away with your anger intact is essential. Staying too long invites escalation. Machiavelli wrote, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." The fool eventually learns through destroyed relationships and lost opportunities that uncontrolled anger is costly. The wise person develops controlled anger as a tool from the beginning. Here is a practice for developing the discipline. In low-stakes situations, practice controlled anger. A minor customer service issue, a small boundary violation. Practice the low voice, slow speech, few words, clear statement, silence formula. Build the muscle in situations where failure costs little. Then you'll have the discipline when stakes are high. The disciplined wielder of anger becomes formidable. They can summon exactly the intensity needed for any situation. They can express fury without losing control. They can communicate that lines exist without becoming the person everyone avoids. This discipline is rare and powerful. Develop it. There is a final element to the controlled burn: the ability to turn it off. Once you've delivered your controlled, angry message, you must be able to shift back to normal interaction. Lingering anger after the message is delivered undermines the control you've demonstrated. Show that you can turn it on and off at will. This on-off ability is deeply unsettling to others in the best way. It shows that your anger is a tool, not a state. It shows that you are in complete control. It shows that the anger was chosen, not suffered. This demonstration of control is often more powerful than the anger itself. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I maintain the controlled burn. If you've made it this far, you now understand why your anger is a weapon rather than a weakness. Anger is information about violations. Suppressed anger destroys while expressed anger protects. Controlled anger commands automatic respect. Anger fuels massive transformation. Strategic revelation maximizes impact. Discipline maintains the controlled burn. These 6 principles form a complete system for weaponizing anger. First, listen to what your anger is telling you. Second, express it rather than suppress it, but do so strategically. Third, use controlled anger to command respect and enforce boundaries. Fourth, channel the energy into productive action. Fifth, choose when and how to reveal your anger based on circumstances. Maintain discipline so the anger serves you rather than controls you. This isn't permission to rage at everyone who bothers you. This is understanding that anger, like any power, requires wisdom to wield. The goal is mastery, not expression for its own sake. Mastery means choosing when, how, and whether to deploy this weapon. The people who told you to suppress all anger weren't protecting you. They were disarming you. An angry person is harder to exploit. An angry person is harder to disrespect. An angry person is harder to control. Your compliance served them. Your anger serves you. If this video showed you how to weaponize your anger, smash that like button. If you know someone still suppressing their power, share this with them. And if you want more content on mastering your emotional power, subscribe and hit that notification bell. Remember, anger itself is neither good nor bad. It is raw energy and information. What you do with it determines whether it serves you or destroys you. The choice is yours. Every time you feel anger, you choose whether to suppress it, explode with it, or wield it. Choose wisely, starting today. Stop suppressing and start listening. Stop exploding and start controlling. Stop wasting your anger on internal destruction and start using it for external transformation. Your anger has been waiting for you to learn how to use it. Now you know. Here is your homework. Think of one situation where you've been suppressing anger. One boundary that has been violated that you haven't addressed. This week, use controlled anger to address it. Use the techniques from this video. Lower voice, fewer words, clear statement, silence. See what happens when you stop suppressing and start expressing strategically. The first time will be uncomfortable. That is normal. You are using muscles that have atrophied from disuse. Keep practicing. Each controlled anger expression builds the discipline for the next. Eventually, you'll be able to summon exactly the intensity needed for any situation. Now drop this final affirmation in the comments. My anger is my weapon. Because in a world where most people either suppress their anger into illness or explode their anger into regret, the person who wields controlled anger holds all the power. Be that person, master this weapon, and watch how everything changes when people realize you are not safe to cross.